you ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Roundtable. I'm Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network or watching us right here on YouTube. I am excited because as a musician occasionally, and as someone who loves music, I took violin lessons for 1 week. It's a lot of twisting and turning, and I have some friends who are violists and violinists, and anybody who can put together and make music. We had a harpist on the other day who made a beautiful album. We've had people on who have played all sorts of instruments, and the fact that you're able to make a career out of being a solo artist and win at the Apollo and tour and put out music, I'm ready. And we're neighbors because she's from Teaneck, New Jersey, and I'm from Richmond Park, New Jersey. So Bergen County, stand up. Welcome, Kirsten. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Robert. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you. And while we're here, we might as well just bury the lead right from the get-go. The album is out now. You know, you have to check out the album. Release the Grace is the single. Queen Rising is the album. Wherever you listen to music, however you get your music, make sure you go find the music.
Yes, please.
I've asked this question. What makes you, as an instrumentalist, say, I'm not going to just play in an orchestra. I'm not just going to play in a pit. I want to make my instrument be the voice, be the main focal point of the music.
Yeah, well, I think it started when I was younger. So I started playing, actually, I know exactly how it started. Let me rewind. So I started playing, I was 3 years old. I started playing the violin, and I grew up studying the Suzuki method, which is a very specific, very widely known method in classical violin playing, where you learn to listen with your ear and play notes, and it's a lot. But before I go into all of that, there was a lot of competition in that school. In I guess a good way, growing up in the 80s, 90s, there was always a lot of competition with classical musicians. And I think there was a part of me that said, how do I stand out? What can be different about how I play and express myself on the instrument? So that started in one way. At the same time, I had a great uncle who was a preacher. And his opinion was, if you're playing the violin, you should know how to play Amazing Grace and Great is Thy Faithfulness and Holy, Holy, Holy and How Great Thou Art. And he made it a point every time I was at his house to teach me a different hymn. And so as I learned the hymns, somewhere along the lines, my parents were like, oh, well, now that you know this, you should be playing in church. Okay. So then I was put in stages and on stage, in pulpits and on stages, and in position really to perform. And the more I performed, the more I had opportunities to improvise on the instrument. And I didn't know what that was. And my parents weren't like, well, how is she going to learn that? And so I went from having classical music teachers to having jazz teachers who taught me how to improvise. So some of it, all of that to say that, some of it started with, well, how can I be different in my expression on the instrument? And then also there was, well, here's all this music that I'm being taught or being told I need to learn. And then learning those things created opportunities for, performance. And it just kind of went from there because I really loved performing music that wasn't just Bach and Beethoven and Mozart. As much as I loved Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, I'm absolutely certain I wasn't meant to be an orchestral musician. I was meant to be the artist that I am. So
yes, I love that. Did you study violin here in Jersey? Did you study violin in the city? I'm sure there have been many teachers or different.
So I studied everywhere. I grew up in Stratford, Connecticut. So the majority of my classical study was in Connecticut between teachers in New Haven, the proximity to Yale University, where I ultimately went for undergrad. So all of my classical teachers, most of them were either Yale graduates or had come through there one way or the other. On the jazz side, though, at least I would say the teacher I spent the most time with was John Blake Jr., and he was in Philadelphia. However, most of my study with him happened in Massachusetts. So I was all over the map, most of the, with my study. And I was actually thinking about Connecticut in and of itself with its proximity to Massachusetts and what's going on with jazz there, and its proximity to New York City as a jazz mecca. and how being positioned there really allowed me to kind of glean and develop all of the musical training I needed. So, yeah.
I love that. I love the jazz world. I love the world. I love the community that is the jazz world. And I love that everyone, in whatever word you use, jazz or whatever word it is, that there's a who love the music and your music, listening to your music makes you just, it's great for cleaning the house, having a dinner party, driving in the car, going to sleep, whatever you need to do to just be. It is the perfect moment
It
for you.
really is. It really is.
While you're here, people can, while we're talking, besides streaming the album and listening to the music, where can we find information about you? We could find you on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. I would love for everyone to find me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm at Kersten Stevens, and I post there all the time. That's the best place to find out what I'm laughing about at any given day, what I'm listening to, what's encouraging me. But also, you know, where I'm performing and where you can see me and hear me and learn updates. So there's all of the music stuff, but then there's all the other side stuff, you know, because we're still human beings. You know, we're artists. As an artist, you are many, many things in addition to your art. So that's a great place to engage with me and chat and learn and meet my dog, things like that.
Yeah, you'll hear my dog. He never listens and follows directions for an interview ever. Kirsten's also, you can go to KirstenStevens.com if you want more information about her history and where you can find the music and all of that fun stuff. The album, Queen Rising.
Yes.
The single, Release the Grace, the videos that go gorgeous.
Yes.
And what does it mean? I listened to it, so I know a little bit what you mean, but what does it mean when you say the single, Release the Grace, is an ode to Luther Vandross?
Oh, well, I mean, so I'm a little old school, right? I'm young, but I'm old school. I mean, when I grew up, the artists, I remember the moment when we got a CD player in the house, and that was somewhere in the early 90s. And there were only so many CDs in the house. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Prince, Stevie Wonder, and Luther Vandross. Like at one point, those were and TLC around 96, right? Because I was Crazy Sexy Cool, you know, that's where I was in 5th grade, 6th grade. So those are the albums that I first started listening to. Luther Vandross, I have performed his songs time and time again, but never too much. It was important for me with this album to have something people could dance to, like really actually dance and enjoy and listen and just vibe with. And I didn't, on the artistic side, I didn't think about what I'm about to say, which was that I was going to need permission from the Luther Vandross estate to do what I did to that song. Fantastic. We record the song, we master it, we get all the work done, all the investment. And then I go to figure out, you know, all the back end stuff. And our licensors, they're like, you know, they very rarely approve anything with this song. So we'll send it out. You can pay us, but you know, when you pay us, it's no likelihood that you're even gonna. They literally were like, you can just flush this money down the toilet, but we'll do our due diligence. But we did it. We put it out. We put it out. We sent it to them, and you know, within 2 weeks, they came back and had approved the song. And so, Release the Grace. I mean, there's a lot to say about the title, a lot to say about Luther Vandross, but I'm really mostly thankful and grateful and appreciative that they allowed Christian and I to do what we did on the album with that song, with that track. And to this day, it's one of my favorite tracks on Queen Rising.
It is a fire track, and it is fun, and the whole vibe of it all is just something that will get your energy up and your spirit up. And it is fun. You talked about Christian McBride, 8-time Grammy Award-winning bassist, artist in his own right, innovator in his own right. What was that relationship like, and how did you grab him and grab him to do this?
That is one of the most cherished, special relationships I have in the music industry. Christian agreed to produce the album in January 2019. We're out at breakfast. We've been friends for some years. And I thought, like, what would it mean if he produced this next album? He had mentioned to me, like, you know, if you just had the right support behind you with the album, you know, I'm pretty sure it'd be really hot. And I was like, you know what? I think he's onto something. And when I asked him about producing, my thought was literally production. Help me with the songs, decide what they are. We ended up writing all the original tunes on the album we wrote together, all of the arrangements we arranged together, and then he performed on every single song. So when you listen to that album and you hear bass, even if it doesn't say featuring Christian McBride, it is Christian McBride on bass, which is just it still blows my mind. We did the album release at City Winery last month, and I'm still, that's my dog. I'm still like mind blown over the fact, even that day, I was like, is it going to happen? This is a thing. And we've recorded the album, mixed, mastered, put it out there. And still the day of the album release, I was like, this is actually really happening. And I think that makes it even more magical and more special, because it's really humbling to have an artist of his stature point you out and say, I see your magic too. And how can I help to elevate and bring you up? And so I've just been really humbled and really blessed, amazingly blessed by being able to work with him and glean all of his expertise. So it's
out now. Stream the album, everybody. You hear it. Your show at City Winery, I heard all about it after it was said and done. I heard you had an amazing crowd. You put on a show for the people. And what is live performing versus you home rehearsing versus you in a studio recording? For someone who plays violin, what do you get from that live interaction with the audience compared to you just all the practicing and all of the recording that you do where it's very alone and insulating? What's it like to get that energy back from the crowd?
Yeah, I mean, it's like immediate gratification, right? Any performer, I'm sure you know, like you can think you're really amazing in your little corner. A lot of us are amazing opera singers in our showers every day. But when you get up on stage and perform, that's the litmus test. And it's a little easier on a night like your album release when the room is filled with, half of your friends and family. But still, you can still, as an artist, when the notes are hitting, right? And when the melodies are saturating the people who are listening. And so I find that performing, I actually need the energy of the audience to really just deliver. But I will say, on the other side of the pandemic and having recorded this particular album, there's a certain confidence is not the right word, but there's a certain flow. There's a certain natural flow that's different in my playing than it used to be. It used to be like an effort, like an up the hill. Now it's just like sliding down a hill. Like, oh, these are the notes I want to play. Let's just go. And it just feels effortless and graceful and really beautiful. So.
And it shines through on all of the music. Your whole team, if you go through the press release of who's on this album, if it's your drummer, if it's the person who mixed the album, all the musicianship, if it's keyboards, if everything that you brought onto this, your music director, all the people that you brought onto this, I've worked with legends, top to bottom, Grammy Awards stacked to the ceiling, and your audio engineer, 10 Grammy Award, you have a team that has worked with everyone. What does it mean? For a long time as an artist, I would get a band, get a music director that I thought was going to be great, have a horrible show or have trouble communicating, and then people would say you got to let them go, and I'd be so afraid to level up or to let go of someone who was with me until I found my team. And then when I found my team, I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. What has it been like to assemble this team and to work with them?
Right. Well, I mean, it's been a blessing, right? Like, also, I feel like a planet inside a really magical orbit, in the sense that, also, it's very intimidating. Just to be really transparent, it's very intimidating. I absolutely had to fight imposter syndrome over and over again. I'm glad when I was working with Todd Whitelock on the mixing of the album. We were working, one of the sessions we worked in his in-home studio, and he had one Grammy sitting over the computer. It's great, cool. I come in, it was raining that day. I remember I rushed in and rushed upstairs. When I came downstairs after the session, and I happened to just glance up at the wall, that's when I saw all the other Grammys. And I was like, well, God, I'm so glad I didn't see that on the way in, because I don't know if I could have functioned properly, because it can be very intimidating to say, okay, all of you have accomplished all of these things, and then here I am, and having, accomplished, some things, but not those things, and those things are my dreams. So it's like sitting and watching people, and I think that's the power of it. Like, I would say it's also it's empowering in the sense that, you all have accomplished this, and you all are using all of your accomplishments to assist me in accomplishing what's next, and we're doing it together. And so if why not me if you, right? It's kind of how you start to think. And so I found it just really empowering and really encouraging, to be among such talented, special people. And each one of them had their own special soft spirits that they brought that made the project. For all my imposter syndrome and anxiety and proclivities or whatever I had coming in, they're being surrounded by all of that excellence kind of just zeroed all that out. So it was really cool to work with.
That's because you're right where you're supposed to be, with people, with contemporaries, with people that want to work with you.
Yeah.
And it's I'm sure very overwhelming. I get it. I really do. But that's elevated your game, and here you are, and the album is out, and you could be streaming it, everybody. So make sure you're streaming it. Let's talk about, you have a special relationship with the Apollo. I mean, the Apollo is sacred ground for performance and for art and culture in Harlem, in New York, and the United States, and the world. I mean, it's synonymous with talent.
Yes.
What made you be a part of Amateur Night, and what was the trick? How did you end up winning 168 times? And what was that experience like? What was that building ground for you in your career?
Yeah. So I'll put that back on my family. So I was 15 when I first took the stage at the Apollo Theater. I had no idea what that was even about. I mean, I knew Showtime at the Apollo, but as a teenager, I wasn't as appreciative of the fact that this was this major opportunity to make a name for myself. And Apollo back then, you could play on that stage once and get signed backstage, right? There were always press and publicity and record label folks milling backstage. So it was really, I want to say, my grandfather, my father, and my mother. Between the three of them, they all got together and say, okay, she's gonna audition. And I want to say, leading up to it, I had competed in the Hal Jackson Talented Teens competition. And Hal Jackson's daughter was a talent scout for Amateur Night at the Apollo. So once I performed in Hal Jackson, I was 15 years old, she had me do a private audition for the team at Amateur Night at the Apollo. And so that's how it all ultimately came together. All of that performance in church led to ultimately, well, if you're performing, you might as well be competing in all these talent competitions. Well, what's that? Did the talent competition, Talent Scout saw me, invited me to compete in Amateur Night at the Apollo. And the secret sauce, to get to your question, back to where I started about how do I stand out? What do we do differently on this instrument? And back to what I said about being old school, I was listening to Regina Carter, and I think she had done this really jazzy, island-infused version of Papa Was a Rolling Stone. So I said, okay, I'm going to the Apollo. I'm going to do my version of the Temptations. Papa Was a Rolling Stone. And that's what I chose. So by the time I got there, I was 15. So those audiences saw a 15-year-old come out on stage with a black, skinny little violin playing Papa Was a Rolling Stone. And that was the song that did it. And I won that first one, second one, third one. And then that same team, for those who don't know, Amateur Night at the Apollo is the stage show, the stage talent show. And then Showtime at the Apollo is the broadcast television show. And so that same Amateur Night team brought me back for Showtime. And that's when I won the next 3 episodes. And it was magical. And it really changed how I play, because I was so scared when I stepped on stage. And so to get over it, I just closed my eyes. So sometimes when you see me play, even to this day with my eyes closed, I'm not playing now because I'm afraid. But then as a 16-year-old taking, the Amateur Night stage, because I could be booed then. Now they don't boo the child contestants, but then you could definitely get booed. And I don't recall getting booed, but I do recall being scared and closing my eyes in order to just get through the performance. But yeah, magical experience.
15. I remember going to tapings of Showtime at the Apollo. I remember staying up in the New York area until 1 o'clock in the morning on NBC to watch Showtime at the Apollo.
Yeah, yeah.
Hal Jackson, if you're not from the New York area, is a legendary, DJ
Yes.
and radio personality here in New York.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah.
What a journey.
Yeah.
Are there moments where you feel in a modern world where, where do you fit in as an artist? Because are you jazz? Are you classical? Are you only instrumentation? Are you how do you even think about that and just say, like, I'm just going to stay true to what I am?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I have a choice but to be true to who I am. So there's that. But I also strongly believe that the industry makes room for excellence at all times, and so I feel like even though I don't, some other tracks on that album fit into, smooth jazz, others fit into contemporary jazz. Some of them have hints at real hard jazz, like swing and bop, right? But I just believe that as an improvising violinist, to some extent, there is no genre for that. You just enjoy it. Like, as long as it's good music, good, feel good music, which all of you should be streaming or can absolutely stream today on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music, and YouTube Music, everywhere you listen to music. If for all of the excellence that it is, I feel like your gift makes room for you. I'll always believe that. And as such, I think that that right now I'll stand firmly rooted in contemporary jazz, but I know that there's so much more for me to do.
Yeah,
So.
Kirsten, when you say improvised violinist, when you go into, when we listen to the album, what were all of those notes written on the page, or are they coming to you? And when we see you in concert,
yeah,
are all the notes planned or are they improvised? What does that mean to be an improvised violinist?
Yeah, well, improvise means if you give me a chord or a melody, I can take it, bend it, shape it however I'd like. Now, we all, I think, as musicians, have that ability. I think it's a skill that requires training, and I think I'm well positioned to do it. Any Suzuki trained classical violinist is well trained to do it because we play with our ears very strongly. And when you develop that ability to hear the chord changes, well, then you can just, and then you layer on to that all of the tenets and methodologies of jazz and chordal progression, right? Then that part is not written. What is written are the melodies, the structure, the song structure, the form structure of the particular song. Those things don't change. It's just, it's there's always a song form, right? AABA, whatever that is, and then you follow that form through your solo, and then you come back to the song. Like, all the questions I usually have are like, how long does a solo have to be? It doesn't have to be a year long. Sometimes musicians, we have so much to say, but it's like, move on to the next song and save that thought. But I think that's the cool part. And when you're able to improvise, that's really the key to unlocking all the various genres. You can improvise and do a rock solo, a jazz solo, a smooth jazz, hip hop, all those things you can break into if you can say, okay, here's the chord I've got, here's the beat, here's the rhythm, let's go. And I think what helps all of that is listening to a lot of different artists. Like, for me, rhythmically, I think I know I like hip hop, like literally love hip hop. But for me, musically, it's the rhythms of the rhymes that speak to me. Like, so if I'm listening to a bunch of hip hop for a whole week and then I go and play a jazz gig, you'll hear a lot more rhythmic playing from me. It's because I'm literally rapping and rhyming in through the notes. Differently from that, gospel on the improvisational side, from gospel, I'm taking that exaltation from the gospel music, right? That moment where the song lifts and it becomes worship. That has taught me how to build a solo, how to build it to a place where it really reaches that peak in your heart. And I cry and people cry when I play, but that's coming from that gospel tradition, I feel like, that I sit within. And on the jazz side, there's that improvisational, form, taking the chord progressions and the song form and knowing when it starts and when it ends and how long it should or shouldn't be, and leaving space. So there's a lot to say for what it is. And I think it's magical for any artist, any musician, to understand, whether you're a vocalist or an instrumentalist, to really learn and understand how to improvise.
It's why I don't do musical theater anymore, because I'm so tired of music directors telling me how to sing. However I feel it is how I'm going to sing it. That's how.
Yeah, that's different. You're right. You're right. I mean, when you're on Broadway, doing a show day in and day out, there's certain things you've got to do as rote. It's just, that's how it's meant to be. I was in musical theater for a little while as a kid. So, Fiddler on the Roof several times. I did several Fiddler on the Roof, Annie Warbucks, right? 2 different plays. Yes. Which is the one that's like, please, sir, can I have some more? Oliver. I was in Oliver. I was in 2 Olivers. So I did a lot other than violin as a kid, but all of it was somehow tied to creativity and music and performance.
When it's in you, it's in you.
Yeah.
And I love your conversation about the music that inspires you and how it moves your playing, because I feel that way as a singer. If I'm really in a certain type of mood, when I get up at you and innately just take on some of the things that move you, and especially in a nerdy way, the chord structure and the build of a song. That moment where you make us cry, or that moment where we feel jubilant and elated and lift. You emotionally manipulate us with your chord structure to make us feel a certain way. That's what music is about. That's what it's about.
Oh my gosh. Everyone go to my Instagram page. I'm gonna make a quote for you. Emotionally manipulate us.
When you stream the album, you'll stream the album and then DM her all the moments she emotionally manipulated you, when she flipped it on its head and made you feel something.
Please tell me. I want to know. End quote, Robert Bannon. That's fantastic.
I'm so excited to see what's next. I'm excited to see you do more live shows. I'm excited for more music. I'm excited for you to just fly. We need this good, smart, talented music that is needed and fills our soul.
Yeah.
Kersten Stevens is on Instagram. If you're listening to us, it's Kersten Stevens, Stevens, and go to her website as well, so you can stay up to date on the music, the albums, the concerts, the whole thing. And go listen to Queen Rising wherever music is heard. And when you go to the Instagram page, you could also click the link, see the music video, see the whole experience.
It's a whole thing. And there's more coming. There's more music that's coming. There's more performance coming. There's a lot planned for 2024. So definitely please stay in touch with me, because I want to be able to bring and share as much music as I can with everyone.
I'm ready. We're ready. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert, so much for making this space and place, not just for me, but for so many artists here in New York and around, because, the more platforms we have, the better. And it really matters that you take the time and dedicate it in this space in this way. So thank you for holding space for us.
The honor is really mine. I'm in awe and so enamored by all that you all are, and the light and the beauty that you shine through. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.